Before I start, I just want to take a second and say thank you, Rotary Club, Rotarians, for putting this on, giving us all an opportunity to give our speeches today, and win a little bit of money. Jenny was so happy with the house they had found. For once in her life, it was the right side of town. She unpacked her things with such great ease as she watched her new curtains blow in the breeze. On the first day of school, everything went great. She made new friends and even got a date. She said, "I want to be popular, and I'm going to be, because I just got a date with the star of the team." Jenny was excited things were going her way. There was even a party that very day. She was afraid that she might be a little too shy. But what's a pizza party and a moonlit ride? Well, the pizza was good and the party was great, and the moonlit ride was on its way. Jenny excitedly jumped into Jeff's car because she couldn't wait for the ride to start. The engine started with a big roar as she wrapped herself in her coat made of fur, and just like that they were off down the road to see what the starry night would behold. They began to talk about stuff that didn't really matter, like clothes and relationships, gossip and chatter. Then all of a sudden there's a ring from Jeff's phone, a text message from his homie, Jerome. He picked up the phone without a second thought. He looked down and started to laugh a lot. Jenny was worried about the texting at first, but once Jeff laughed, her mood dispersed. There's nothing wrong with using a phone while driving, she thought. I bet plenty of people do it a lot. So just calm down and have some fun. Enjoy this night now, before it's done. But she still couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't all right. So she decided to speak up on that starry night. "Hey Jeff," she said as nicely as could be, "is it all right if you put down the phone and just talk to me?" "Of course," Jeff said. Then one more text. He looked down and typed, "She is the best." Then all of a sudden there was a great flash. Jenny heard herself scream, "We're going to crash." She doesn't remember the force of the impact, just that everything all of a sudden went black. She felt someone remove her from the twisted rubble and heard someone call an ambulance. "These kids are in trouble." The voices she heard, a few words at best, but she knew there are 2 cars involved in the wreck. And if the other people in the car were alive, she hoped in her heart that they would survive. She awoke in a hospital to faces so sad. "You've been in a wreck and it looks pretty bad." These voices echoed inside her head as they gently told her that Jeff was dead. "I'm sorry, Jenny, we've done all that we can do, but it looks as if we'll lose you too." "But what about the other people in the car?" Jenny cried. "I'm sorry, Jenny. They also died. Tell my mom and my dad I was strong and I didn't cry, and it's my fault. So many have died. Oh, nurse, please, please just tell that to them." The nurse just stood there. She never agreed. She took Jenny's hand with tears in her eyes, and a few moments later, Jenny died. A man asked the nurse, "Why didn't you do your best to bid that poor girl her one last request?" She looked up at the man with eyes so sad, because the other people in the car were her mom and dad. Now, this story that I just told you, this poem, I didn't tell you to try to get you to cry. I told you to try and more open your eyes. You see, 6,000 people die every single year. On average, 11 teens die every single day. Jenny and her boyfriend were a part of both of those unsettling statistics. Texting while driving had taken their lives. Now, this new epidemic has continued to rise over the past decade due to the advances in modern technology. But the real threat of texting while driving is the distraction that texting gives to drivers. Now, this threat, this distraction, has been the cause of about 1/4 of all automobile accidents. That's 1.6 million car crashes and over 500,000 notable injuries every single year. But that all just happens in 5 seconds. You see, 5 seconds is the average time it takes a driver to reach down, pick up his phone, and read a text message while driving down the road. Going the average speed of 45 miles per hour, this driver hasn't looked up from his phone until he has driven the length of a football field. Now this blindness, it's honestly unacceptable. It's infuriating to think that a person would not only risk their lives, but every single person and every single car that shoots down the road beside them in those 5 fleeting seconds in danger. It's unbelievable to think that a person would risk their lives to send a text message that, more times than not, doesn't even matter. And it's saddening to think that a next generation of drivers grew up watching their role models use the phone while driving. If nothing is done, this epidemic is just going to get worse. But is it fair to all concerned? Is it beneficial to all concerned? Will it bring up goodwill and better friendships? Let me ask you this. Is waking up in a ditch, face down, not knowing where you are, not knowing how you got there, and the debris of your once perfect car surrounding you, is that fair? Is being picked up by an ambulance and raced to the hospital, where doctors are waiting to see if they can save your life, is that beneficial? And how will knowing the fact that a collision that you caused sent a mother and her child to heaven, how will that bring up goodwill and better friendships? It won't. The answers are so simple for every one of those questions. No, no, and of course not. But is it the truth? Now the truth, it's a totally different subject in itself. You see, the truth is determined upon which a commodity is perceived. In other words, the truth is different for everyone. But no matter how many different ways I look at this subject, from others' views and perspectives, I've always seemed to come back to one simple truth. This whole new epidemic, it's all just a choice. Now, I've told you about some facts, and I've told you about some statistics, and I've told you about how texting and driving is so dangerous and deadly, but there's no guarantee that any of that stuff will ever happen to you. There's nothing saying if you so much as think of a phone while driving, then you're going to get into an accident. But is that really a risk that you're willing to take? A risk that could end the lives of many? But like I said before, it's your choice. Thank you.